The CFA exam is a very difficult exam. This is something we've all heard even before we started studying for these exams or even before we started registering for the exams. But we honestly only understand how difficult or how tough this exam is when we are put in situations that test us to its limit. So far in this channel, I have only shared with you my success stories, my success strategies, how I cleared level 2 in one attempt, how I cleared level 1, things that worked for me, etc. etc. But today I'm going to share with you a few mistakes, few prominent mistakes that I made that led me to some rather painful but very value giving, lesson giving failures. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tanishka and I hope you all are doing good. Like I already said, in today's video I'm going to talk about some failures that I faced during my CFA journey, and the reason that I'm sharing this story with you in particular is because I know that I was led to that failure because of certain mistakes that I did, and I'm mainly sharing it so that you know the mistakes that I did and you learn from it and you do not do the same, so that you do not have to go through what I went through. That's all the agenda for this particular video is. So yeah, please stay tuned till the very end. It's a very sensitive, it's a very personal story. Everything that I'm gonna say now onwards is completely uncensored. I'm not gonna hide anything. I'm just gonna lay out everything so that you can get some value out of it. You can learn something from it, because I believe that all of you that are watching my videos deserve to learn not only from my successes but from my failures, because honestly there is no teacher like failure. So yeah, before we continue with the video, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you're already in the channel, thank you for staying with me so far. I hope our journey continues till the very end. So this particular story actually starts from my level 2. When I was giving my level 2, like by the time I was gonna give my exam, I was in a very bad state. Physically, mentally, emotionally, there was just a lot of things going on, a lot of turmoil. It almost happened that the reason that I had joined the exam started crumbling. Everything was going wrong, okay? In fact, I started my final revision for the exam, my main revision, literally just, you can say, 20-25 days before the exam, and a month before that I had literally not even touched my books. I was in that bad a state. Although I had studied very well before, but that last 2 months were horrible. Like, they were very bad for me. And because of that, I was very confident that I'm not gonna pass the exam. Ho hi nahi sakta that I clear level 2, because as we all have heard so far that, you know, a lot of people say that level 2 is the toughest exam in the CFA curriculum. So keeping that in mind, I was like, you know what, there's no chance I'm gonna pass. And that's a very long story of what happened. If you want to know that entire story in detail, the level 2 story in detail, let me know in the comment section and I will make a video on that. That is also something I think that you guys should know, but again, only if you want to know, I will make that. Coming back to this story, so since I was so confident that I'm not gonna pass the exam, and since things were going so wrong in my life, especially professionally, I had decided that if I don't clear the exam, which according to me was a 99% probability, yes, that's how high I thought that I'm not going to pass the exam, I had decided that I will no longer continue CFA. Yes, I know, very rash decision, very absurd decision. How am I giving motivational pep talks to you all? It's because of the mistakes that I did that I'm able to give you those pep talks. So yes, I had made that decision that I will not give CFA again. I will leave CFA completely if I fail my level 2. Cut to my level 2 exam. I gave the exam, sab kiya. Somehow when I gave the paper, I did feel a little confident, but considering how well I had prepared, I was like, you know, no matter how okay the paper is, if my preparation was not good, maybe I'm just thinking that it went good and it was wrong. There were a lot of questions, ifs and buts. Everyone who's waiting for their result would relate to this. So yeah, those things were going on in my head. And again, cut to the level 2 result. I remember my level 2 result very well, because that time I was diagnosed with COVID. I had just started recovering from a very major bout of COVID actually. And again, amazing, I passed something that I did not expect. I passed the first attempt of level 2, so to say the most difficult level in the entire CFA curriculum, in spite of having such a horrible last 2 months. I was happy, I was excited, I was elated, I was a little too proud of what just happened, and that is where my mistake number one starts. And honestly, this mistake number one is the baseline, it's the root cause of how everything starts tumbling moving forward. So my mistake number one was becoming overconfident. Yes, I became extremely overconfident that, oh my god, level 2 pass kar liya maine one attempt mein, in spite of that happened, that happened, in spite of me doing this, in spite of me doing that. Literally, if I make that level 2 video, if you ask me to make that video, I literally went for that exam with a bleeding finger. Throughout that exam, my finger was bleeding. So you can imagine how bad my state was. And I still passed the exam. So I was like, you know what? Wow, Tani, you're a genius, you're amazing, you're this, you're that. I started feeding my brain with all these positive thoughts, affirmations, which are good, but it's not good when it's done to the extent of just constantly boasting about yourself. I did it. And I remember my results came out mid-Jan, and level 3 was scheduled for August, and at that time, yeah, August and Feb, that was the dates that was happening. So sorry, May and August. That year it was May and August. Obviously May was something we couldn't even register for, but August was something that was there. And I was like, yeah, now that I passed the exam, I was obviously gonna continue CFA, right? Because I passed the exam. That was the decision that I made. So I was like, I'm gonna give August. I spoke to my sir and he said, yeah, please, you have to give it in August. You have 6 months to prepare. That's quite a good time and everything. And I was like, yeah, he's right. Why not? So I registered for the exam around first week of Feb. I hadn't even started studying. I just got the books. I think first week of Feb is when I got the books. And the reason that I started a little late, because like I said, I just came out from a major bout of COVID, so that recovery took a little time. But yeah, I registered for the exam. And now, one thing before I continue the story, at that time, I used to work as a freelance business strategist, because I'm not very good at managing studies and work together. I think I've said this before. I'm not very amazing at balancing 2 tasks at once. So I throughout had kept this balance that, while my exams are there, I will not work, and while there are no exams, I will work. So right through my level 2, I used to work as a freelance business strategist, and it was something I thoroughly enjoyed, because you used to meet different clients, different businesses. So I really enjoyed that. But when I registered for level 3, I registered with the thought that, there are only 6 months. I will not take up any project because I want to clear level 3. Obviously, once you clear level 2, you're like, ab to khatam karna hai. So I had decided in my head that, yeah, I'll finish level 3 now. I'll not take up anything now, so that, it's just a continuation. And by the time I'm done with the exam, I can take up long-term projects. With that decision in mind, I had just registered for Manish Sir's classes. I had just started my classes when an old client, this is around end of Feb, just literally, I just gotten my books and everything. So I think mid-Feb, end of Feb, that client came to me, an old client came to me, and he had a 2-month project that he wanted me to work on. And he specifically wanted me to work on that because we already had worked before, so we had that rapport, we had that understanding. So he told me that, Tanishka, I have this 2-month thing, and are you interested? Now, I had just decided, right, that I won't take up anything. Literally, it had just been, I think, a week or 2 that I made that decision. But this project came at such a tempting point. I think everything, right, from the money that was tempting, very tempting. And also, I remember that the work that was involved in that project also included a little bit of sales that I could polish, and that was a skill that I was really, wanting to learn, because sales is a skill that I think every single person should have. That's one of the most highest paying skill that you can have, trust me. So I wanted to polish that skill, I wanted to learn that skill, enhance that skill, and that project was giving me the opportunity to have that as well. So it became very tempting, okay? It was the skill that I wanted, it was the project that I wanted, it was the money that I wanted. And here comes my mistake number 2. I got lured. I got lured very badly, and I took it up. The mistake here is not getting lured. The mistake is not sticking to my decision. I know myself. I knew that I couldn't balance work and studies together well. It's not a skill that I possess. And that is why I took that decision. And something came along and I wavered from my decision. Very big mistake. Very, very big mistake. But at that time, when we're doing mistakes, we don't usually realize it. And like most of us, I justified it in my head that, you know what, it's fine. It's just 2 months. I'll still have 4.5 months to study. So that's brilliant. And, you know, things like that I kept telling myself. And I went ahead. Obviously, in those 2 months, I barely studied. I attended a few lectures, but I was not very regular. For some reason, I was not studying my best. Majority of my time would go and work. I was not studying. I think I can't justify this more than that. There is no excuse that I can give. I was not studying. But in my head, I had already justified the situation back then that it's okay. 4 months are more than enough. क्योंकि level 2 जो हमने कर लिया तो level 3 तो क्या ही है. That is the thought process that I had. So we worked for 2 months. Now call it destiny, call it divine vengeance, call it luck, call it anything. Towards the end of this 2-month tenure, a very old injury of mine started disturbing me again. I had a very major back injury 2 years back, and that kind of started nagging me again. And this time it nagged me to the extent that I actually had to revisit the doctor and get certain tests done. सब कुछ किया, and turned out that I had spinal arthritis because that injury had, become so bad in the last 2 years. We thought it had healed, but it had actually never healed, and it led to spinal arthritis. काफ़ी सारे tests हुए, ये हुआ वो हुआ. So spinal arthritis, a few other health issues also started coming up alongside it. You know, when you do one blood test in India, one MRI, एक के साथ 3-4 चीज़ें फ्री आती हैं, तो वो सब आ गया. So another 1 month got extended in just visits to doctors, new medication, making me drowsy, making me moody, making me sick, all in pain. It was a very weird month, but it was what it is. And I don't know if this is a mistake. I don't think this is a mistake. This was just, I think, like I said, pure destiny. It happened at that time. And obviously when you're in such a state, again, you cannot give your best, you cannot study that well. Even if you try to study, you're not 100% focused. And again, that's what happened to me. Now what happened? 3 months wasted, 3.5 months still remaining. I know this video to many of you will be like, एक ही एग्जाम में इतनी चीज़ें कैसे हो गई यार. I can't say कैसे हुआ, क्यों हुआ, but it did happen. Just when these things started settling down a bit, my sister, who stays in the UK, my real sister, was coming down to Bombay, and she was coming down to Bombay after 2.5 years because COVID pandemic के वजह से there was a constant lockdown either in Bombay or in the UK. It was usually alternating. So जब Bombay का lockdown खुल जाता था, वहाँ का lockdown लग जाता था, and vice versa. In fact, we were also trying to get our UK visas since a very long time. You know, if she's not able to come, we'll try to go. So we had already put our papers down, but हमें तब तक आए नहीं थे. While on the other hand, there was a gap, there was a 14-day holiday that she had, and fortunately, borders were open, so she's like, you know what, I am coming. And rightfully so, yeah, we haven't seen her in the last 2.5 years. She also hadn't seen us in person. So she came down, and here is my next mistake, that is getting carried away. Because when she came here, obviously, everything was in a very joyous mode. Like I said, my back thing also, it's just started settling. So, there was a little bit peace. And she was only here for 14 days. She was here with her husband. So, कुछ ना कुछ चलता ही रहता था घर में. We were visiting some relatives are coming over. There was just a lot happening. And ऐसे करते करते पता ही नहीं चला 14 days और निकल गए. I barely realized. Did I absolutely not study in this period? No, I did. I did study a little bit, but you can say bare minimum, almost nil. It was definitely not the standard that I keep for myself, and I know that any of us giving CFA would never even think of that level of studying as studying. So yeah, again 14 days gone because I got carried away, and that I consider a mistake because I should have had that much self-control, that much time management, that I give enough time to enjoyment and enough time to my studies, but I didn't. It was completely my fault. she, just before her leaving, I remember last, I think there were just 4-5 days for her to leave, and our UK visa got approved. Again, strange, I'm telling you, life plays such games. And we had back then applied for a 6-month UK visa only, because we were not sure of, how long borders are open and things like that, etc, etc. And हमें तब मिल गया था. And usually in cases where you get a visa, it is preferred that you utilize that visa and don't just let it go to waste. So around May, we also had to travel to the UK. And like I said, because COVID was quite a long period, as a family, it was very tough on all of us, right? So I think there was that conscious decision in my head that, I don't want this family trip to hold back because of me. Also, when life throws so much at you, it suddenly makes you value that moments with family, and you're like, everything else can wait. And I suddenly went into that zone. I don't know if we should count this as a mistake or not, but I decided to prioritize that family time that we all had craved for, that over even my CF exam. So we went to the UK end of May, you can say literally end of May, May 28th, May 29th we reached, and we were gonna be there for around 2 months. So we came back to Bombay literally in August. And ऐसा नहीं है कि वहाँ पे पढ़ाई नहीं की. The plan was such that we were gonna stay in my sister's house majorly, leaving the few weekends that we had to travel. So the plan was that I will continue to study as is. I've also visited the UK before, so it was not that I'm going for the first time as a tourist. So that was the plan, that I'll continue to study. My sisters will still be working. Everything, it was all set. And ऐसा हुआ भी. I was studying there pretty much all through the week. I had completed a lot of things there. I completed derivatives, I completed fixed income, I completed equity, I completed ethics, I completed corporate finance. No, corporate finance hota hi nahi. I completed eco. I completed quite a few things, but 2 mistakes now here.